market, a guy that knows the game inside out, and many know him all over North America and the world. David Amoyal, he is a contributor with Gianluca D'Amarzio. David, welcome, my friend.
Oh, it's great to be on, and what a tough act to follow tonight. So thank you so much for having me on the show tonight.
Pleasure to have you on, David. Let's talk about it. You and I both can admit this came out of left field. I didn't see this happening. I'm shocked still to this day. I'm happy for the city of Toronto. But what a statement this now makes, David, for all Italian young soccer players, European players, that MLS clubs are right now for real and they're dishing out some hard cash and they want you here. Talk about it, David.
It's definitely a fascinating trend. We saw it last year with Michael Bradley, who came to Toronto, for also a big wage offer. But, he had obvious ties to MLS and to North America. But to get someone like Giovinco, I think, like you said, really is kind of in breaking new ground. And I think that's part of one of the reasons why Giovinco wanted to do this deal, was to be kind of a trailblazer in that sense. So we saw it a little bit with Bradley, but to get an Italian player who played for a prominent team, who plays for the national team as well, to come at the age of 28 to Toronto, is certainly very impressive.
David, some of the critics out there are saying, well, Anthony, this guy hasn't played very much with Juventus this year. What's he going to do by coming over here if he really isn't even informed with his club? And my response to that would be, and you could, I'm sure, answer this better than I can, David, when you've got Pirlo, Pogba, Marquisio, who else am I missing? But where is this young man going to get that time?
Well, I think, Juventus in general is a tough situation for Giovinco. He's a homegrown player. There was always a lot of hype that he was going to be like the new Del Piero, following the footsteps of Baggio, Del Piero, the great number 10s before. And he's also from the city of Turin, so there's a lot of pressure for that in general. But this season, too, he has Tevez, he has Llorente, he has Morata, was the big purchase that Juve made in the summer, and they also got Koeman, who's a very good prospect that came over from PSG. So in his role, he really was struggling. And what I will say about Giovinco is he did have some opportunities to leave Juve on loan and decided to stay in Turin, but he's also from the city. He has a young kid, so maybe that played a part in that. But, Giovinco does play for the national team on Italy. He recently wore the number 10 jersey for Conte. Conte knows him well. Granted, there's not many great options for the Azzurri up front these days, but still, he is an important player for the national team. So while he has struggled at Juve, you can definitely hang your hat on that.
And I'm glad you brought that up, David, because that's another concern that a lot of people have in Italy that have tweeted me, that have talked to me, that have sent me messages. They said that now Giovinco will be out of sight, out of mind for Antonio Conte and the national team. And the example they cite is Jermaine Defoe. When he came over here, he didn't get the opportunity to go to Brazil in the World Cup. This will happen to the same thing to Giovinco. I don't see that. You explained it. Explain it more in depth for us.
Well, I think, one thing that really helps Giovinco is his relationship with Conte. Conte coached him at Juve for the 3 years that he was there. He's actually a player that he defended, and I think he also backed it up with his actions. He did select him to the national team. He did get to wear the number 10 jersey. So I think the fact that Conte is there, he's going to at least get the benefit of the doubt. I don't think Conte is going to completely ignore him. The other thing is the position that Giovinco plays. There aren't that many options for Italy. Up front, the cupboard's a little bit bare. So I think this doesn't completely rule him out from Italy. Does it help his case? No, but I still think he's in the conversation to go to the next Euro unless some other players in Italy come back. One would be if Giuseppe Rossi can come back healthy. That would hurt Giovinco, but I don't see many players who can take his spot on the team.
David, shocking to know that now, once this contract is signed by Giovinco and in July when he starts with TFC, he will be the highest paid Italian player, if I'm not mistaken, the highest paid player in Serie A. I mean, I was shocked by that. I thought it would be Buffon, De Rossi, but I am completely wrong. I mean, this is unbelievable, David.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to tread carefully here. I mean, I think there's been a little bit of different reports on is his salary net or gross of taxes. I mean, regardless of that, it's a monster fee. If you go, a lot of places in Italy are reporting that it's net of taxes. If that's the case, then he earns more than De Rossi, who's at €6 million. give or take, and that's what Giovinco would be at. So it is a monster sum, but that's really what it would have taken to get him to come to MLS. You know, he's 28. He did have some offers in Italy. He had an expiring contract with Juve, and that's why Toronto could just talk to him and not have to talk to Juve. But so he did have offers, so it had to be a big offer to convince him to come. And, you know, the most recent news, and there is a possibility that maybe Giovinco could come at the beginning of the season. I know right now Juventus is somewhat maybe considering the option of letting him go when the MLS season starts. His contract expires in June. I don't know if that'll definitely happen, but there'll definitely be an attempt for that. So it's a shocking fee, but that's the price of doing business to bring an Italian international at the age of 28 to MLS.
Wow, that would be absolutely outstanding if he can get here a lot earlier than July. People would be over the moon here in this city, and I'm sure that Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment and TFC would be ecstatic if he can here arrive earlier. David, just before we let you go, talk about now the psyche, the mentality of that young Italian player growing up in Italy, seeing what took place here with Giovinco. What's going through their mind? Are they thinking about, hey, do I really want to play for Roma, Napoli, Juve, or would I rather go make money and start a project, as Andrea D'Amico said, with MLS, maybe New York City FC, Orlando, Chicago? What's going through these young Italian players' minds today?
Well, it's a fascinating situation, and I think, too, one thing that's maybe not being talked about enough is the opportunity to come to live in North America. I mean, granted, we're talking about athletes who make, you know, millions of dollars, and a lot of millions of dollars in Giovinco's case, but, too, you know, you get the opportunity to come live in North America. Toronto has a great reputation, a big Italian population, and this move might open up the eyes to some other people. You know, I have to tell you, and I really want to congratulate the reporters in Toronto, John Molinaro, Gareth Wheeler. They were way ahead on this story, and I can tell you there was a lot of skepticism in Italy that this would actually happen, and I think that tells you a lot about the mindset of the people. Maybe now they're opening up their eyes that MLS is no longer just a retirement league. You know, Bradley went over there, and he was a starter on a team in Italy who chose to come to MLS, but he had ties to North America, and to see now Giovinco do that for that amount of money, I mean, you have to wonder if other guys that are sitting on the bench and said, yeah, see that, and tell their agent, you know, that sounds really good, try to get me over there. So I think this could really change things, could be a game changer, and we might see more Italian or European players in general come to MLS.
Well said, David. We can't let you go without talking about the one, the only, the master, Gianluca Di Marzio, and the great work he does in the transfer market. You help out as well. You're a major contributor with Gianluca Di Marzio in the English site. Talk about some of the stories that are up there right now, and where can people read and follow you on Twitter as well?
Great. Well, the name of the site is gianlucadimarzio.com. You can find the link on my Twitter page, David Amoyal. Well, the Giovinco story, I have to tell you, has been one that I had been researching for a while. We didn't post it until Saturday, so again, congratulations to the folks in Toronto. You know, we're seeing a lot of older players coming back to Italy, which is a little bit disappointing. Eto'o, you know, is the former striker for Inter who won the Champions League, might be coming to Sampdoria. That's a story that we're working on right now. Juventus is, you know, looking at options to see if they can bring in someone at the last second. And I think we're going to see a lot of movement with Milan. With you know, there might be down the line a coaching change. I think Inzaghi is safe unless he loses the next few days. So I think that's another story to keep your eye out. Fantastic. And where can people follow you on Twitter, David? It's at David Amoyal, so it's just my first and last name, and I appreciate everyone's support. You know, both the English site and my Twitter page have really expanded a lot recently, so a big thank you to all the listeners in Toronto, because I have quite a few that read from Toronto, so thank you to everyone. Well, thank you for being a class act and tipping your hat to the guys that broke that story. That's a class act on your behalf, because not many guys in the business would do that, but you did it graciously.